was on drums.
I don't even remember this.
You had to throw up, and you were holding the bass, and you puked behind the bass amp, and kept playing.
That is so rock and roll, man. I love it, and I don't remember it.
And you just kept playing.
Now, see,
We're like,
is this recording?
Yeah.
Welcome back, folks.
Something in the water taught me how to crawl. Something in the water taught me how to fall.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another Something in the Water podcast. I'm Uncle Dave Griffin.
I'm Sean Clark.
And our guest this week, we'd like to welcome the beautiful couple, husband and wife, songwriting, musical duo, originally from Waycross, Georgia, now living in St. Simons, Chris and Laurie Rider. We're glad to have y'all.
It's good to be here.
thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, like I say, they were from Waycross. That's where they got. That's where we all met.
That's where
one
we
another
met.
originally.
Yeah, that's where we all met. But they weren't even from Waycross.
No.
I'm from
Oh,
Blackshear.
Oh,
Blackshear.
yeah?
Originally.
Mm-hmm.
I always like to go way back in.
But I'm
this.
born,
we
I was
finna
born in
go way
Waycross.
back.
You
But
were
you moved
born in
back.
I was born in
Waycross because I know
Waycross.
your mama still lives over here.
Mm-hmm.
So you were born in Waycross.
Grew up
and
in
grew up in
Blackshear.
Blackshear.
Mm-hmm.
But you always, I hear stories about when you came back to Waycross, you came back from Jacksonville.
I did.
That's what I got confused with. I was
So
supposed to say
you
Jackson.
kind of graduated from Pierce County
Mm-hmm.
and then hauled ass out of
For the most part.
Hit the ground
out of
running.
Dodge.
Yeah.
But
For the most
Laurie
part.
and Sean met each other back
in high school.
high school.
He was dating
Connected
Katie
through-
Strickland.
Oh, wow.
You used to
Katie
come and do.
Strickland.
I forget, like,
You used to
decades
come
of
and
my
do. Your band used to come and do pep rallies or
Or did
talent
one,
shows,
right?
or you
Yeah.
did one at least. I
A
know.
Smashing Pumpkin song.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
I think so.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Disarm,
So
yeah.
you
That was
were-
on the song.
So
played over there.
y'all probably met before any of us met.
I'm sorry, Lauren.
It's
Well,
okay.
you ain't got to remember that. I'm just saying.
So you were dating Katie
Strickland.
Strickland, wasn't she the actress?
Mm-hmm.
She still
she
is
that.
Dave.
You dating Hollywood starlets?
Oh, it goes deeper than that. He moved. He moved.
She wasn't at the time.
He moved off with her.
I do know the story, but our listeners don't. But you dated a girl from Blackshear.
He looks like this is painful. He's not wanting to talk
I'm
about
not
this
the
right
guest.
now.
You're not the guest. Yeah, we'll move on. A little teaser there for y'all to wrap
Rain
your
check.
head around. Yeah, we'll talk about that sometime. Though.
But we are going to talk about how we all met, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I moved here in 95, 96
From
from Glenn County.
From Glenn
But
County.
originally I'm from Massachusetts.
Boston.
No, everyone says Boston. Why is it always
Marion.
Boston? It's a little town north of Cape Cod. Very rural.
Okay.
I grew up in the country. Which,
There-
when I say I grew up in the country, that people are like, "Well, you're from up north," but the country is the country. We grew up playing in the woods and dirt roads. And,
There, for the lack of accent. I mean,
that's right.
You probably did have
Oh,
a
it was
thicker accent. at
I
one
had
time,
a hella
though.
accent when I moved here, but I lost it quick
Yeah.
because I got teased.
Go with him to Boston. It comes
It-
back.
Does it come
No,
back?
it does not.
It
come
comes back a little bit.
When I go to Massachusetts, everyone thinks that I'm from here, and when I'm
Yeah.
here, everyone's like, "Where are you from?"
Yeah.
They can't pinpoint it.
Yeah.
But no,
Well, you sound like Chris to me.
yeah, I know. But we moved to Glenn County. My parents separated, divorced. My mom's second marriage. We moved to Glenn County in 1989, and I graduated from Glenn Academy. It took me a while.
So and
I
that's
was
where
2 years short of what I was supposed to be, or 2 years added, and then my family relocated to Waycross through the church,
Mhm.
and I followed them, and perfectly honest, hated it here and tried to get out.
What year was that?
I think that was 96,
96. That was
and I met.
about the time that I met you for the first time.
No, sir.
No.
No,
Later than
it
that?
took years before we met.
96.
So
That's 96. I had just moved into the house where I'm at now in 96. So it was a few years after that.
So my folks moved here.
And really quick, weirdly enough, that was the year that I moved from here
That's
to
right.
Jacksonville.
So she left the
So
year that I moved
left
here.
the year that he
in
moved here.
96, you left. Okay.
But I moved here and I met my sister Rachel was dating T.W. Lott.
What?
Yes.
I did not know that.
The things you learn on our podcast.
I remember that.
So I moved here and did not really play guitar. Wanted
Really?
to. No, I didn't take the time to learn. It just I was so involved with hanging out and girls and working jobs in Glen
So
County, Brunswick.
Girls and girls.
So when you
girls.
moved here, were you out of high school?
I
That's
had
not
just
what I heard.
graduated.
You just graduated.
I had
so-
just graduated high school. Like I said, it took me a little longer than most people because I dropped out for a year, but graduated high school. My folks moved here. I got a DUI. I was out on my own in Brunswick, and I had to move back here. So I moved here with my folks, and I hated it. I didn't know anybody. It was just too small a town for me. And I met TW, Jason Lee, and Jesse Herron all had a band. And what was it called?
Distant.
Distant. But I think it had turned into 12 gauge enema or
12-gauge
something.
enema, yeah.
But it was probably still distant when I moved here. And those guys were a trip because Rachel would take me to their band rehearsals at Jesse's studio. And inevitably, one of them would be too intoxicated to have the rehearsal. Or they'd get through just a couple of songs and Jesse and Jason would get into a debate about how the song had gone at the previous rehearsal. And that would be the end of the practice. So that was a lot of fun. They were a grunge band, kind of grungy, post-alternative, hard rock. And man, I thought Jason Lee was the best drummer I had ever seen.
He's a badass.
He is
I mean,
awesome.
back in the day, his footwork and TW's guitar playing and Jesse's bass playing, I was like, why are these guys not famous? I wanted to be in that band so bad. But I like I said, I couldn't hardly play.
You didn't have any skills at that point.
No. And so I moved back to Brunswick, and then I moved to Atlanta, and then I moved back here, and then really started honing in on my guitar playing. And then I met Sean along the way, and Sean and I hung out and wrote songs together for like a solid 2 years. We were inseparable.
Yeah.
And we had a lot in common because we had both discovered Beck's folk music
Yeah.
at that time, and Tom Waits and his lyrics. And so
You turned me on to Tom Waits. Actually.
okay. But remember, we found Hank Williams Sr. at the same time.
Damn.
Tell me the story.
I showed up and I was working at the movie theater here, and the manager and I had gone out drinking, and he had Hank Williams on his stereo in his truck. And I said, Sean, you got to hear this. And you said, man, I've been listening to that for the past 2 weeks. And we
really?
bould discovered it at the same time because we
okay.
were both
But not
going
at the same
backwards.
moment, but
not at the same moment, right around the same time. And I don't know, we just had a lot in common.
Yeah.
And we were always together with our acoustic guitars in someone's living room, backyard fire,
Yeah.
just trying to find our voice.
Man, do you have the tapes we
I
made?
don't.
Man, it was just like stream of consciousness making up songs on the spot on these tapes.
I think that I heard some of that.
And
He
I
did
think I
at some
did.
I
point
couldn't even
have.
tell you
I did
one
too.
line out of the whole thing now, but it.
Titty Flopping USA.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah.
But we had a lot of fun, and we always carried that recorder around in a microphone, and we were always trying to hit it hard and trying to get better and find our voice.
Yeah,
And,
that was
you played me Graham Parsons, and I remember it. You had a shop,
Mhm.
and it was named after a Star
the
Wars,
Most Easily.
Most
instead of-
Easily.
Instead of Most Isley.
which is a Star Wars reference,
Right.
And you sold incense and T-shirts and tapestries, and it was a hippie shop.
It was a head shop without the pipes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And you played me Sin City, the song. And man, I loved it. I heard that pedal steel guitar playing in them harmonies. And I said, let me take that CD home with me. And it was the Flying Burrito Brothers, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I brought it back to you the next day. I said, man, that's terrible. The whole thing is terrible.
Oh, yeah.
You said, are you crazy? I said, that one song is good. I don't like the way Graham sings. I don't like none of it.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to let Laurie talk, I swear. But,
Wasn't he just getting on to me about this?
Then it grew on you, though,
well,
didn't it?
I got my timeline wrong. I moved to Atlanta and I found Graham Parsons live with the Fallen Angels.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the good stuff. He had honed in on what he wanted to do, and he had a hell of a band.
Well, he had Emmy Lou.
And he had
too.
Emmy Lou.
Yeah.
And then I went back and rediscovered Flying Burrito Brothers,
Right.
and it started clicking and making sense. But anyway, that's my story of how I moved
All
to
right, now,
Waycross.
it was probably right about this time that you discovered, y'all made these discoveries, Hank Sr. and Graham Parsons and all, for you, Chris. Right about that time, probably, that you came over to my house where I live now.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember sitting in the laundry room, which I was sitting on the clothes dryer or the washing machine, just sitting there, and y'all were standing there either playing.
Me and Chris?
Yeah.
No, you're getting it wrong.
Okay.
Graham brought Sean to you. Graham Griffin, your nephew.
No, we went to Sean's house. Me and Graham did. That's where we met.
But Graham didn't want me to meet you yet.
I thought that we met that
He
time.
acted like you were the secret. Graham
the
told
secret.
Graham told me I wasn't ready to meet you. I swear to you, this happened. Graham said you're
this
not.
pillow just came out of nowhere on that one.
Folks, you'll have to excuse this. You'll have to excuse this. We are not representing or
Let's just represent.
yeah.
But
might as
Graham,
well.
Graham said that you were the unknown secret. And I wasn't ready to meet you yet. So it took a little while. Sean had met you first. I met you at the post office and had no idea who you were.
Wow, really?
And I was going into the post office to mail homemade demos that Sean and I had made
Really?
to college radio stations. And you
Did I wait on you?
Yes, you waited on me.
Did we
And,
talk about it?
Yes, we talked about it. And
don't
before I
remember.
met you,
remember.
because you had this awesome mullet, and it reminded me of Buffalo Bill from Silence of the Lambs. Am I getting it right? So Justin, if you can find a picture of him post production and put it up, Dave had this really awesome mullet, and
Still got it.
And the way that Dave talked with his hands at the post office while he waited on people, I thought I gave you a backstory. I was like, this guy's a magician who does birthday parties on the weekends. That's what you look like to me.
Prestidigitation.
So we met, and you were inquisitive. You're like, oh, I see you're mailing stuff off to radio stations. And then when I finally did meet you through Graham finally brought me over. I was like, the post office guy, the magician.
So he was a secret. He
The
really was a
musician
secret.
magician.
But you were always so supportive of all of us. And I could come knocking at any time of day, say I got a song, and you say, come on in.
That's
Let
the
me hear
beauty
it.
of it to me. You know, I learned so much from y'all. I did pick up so much from y'all. Y'all just made me young again. Y'all subtracted years off my life because you're talking about the post office. I was there for 14, 15 years, and I had shelved everything musically, you know. I played in a band, you know, the Keepers was a cover band, 60s covers. And 89, we played 50 straight weeks, 50 weekends. We had a gig for 50 weeks out of the year. And I was working at the post office, graveyard shift, like 3 a.m. So we'd play at St. Simon's, and at 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock, we'd get through at 2 o'clock.
That's right. Gigs went till 2 back then.
And I'd throw that guitar in the case and haul ass to Waycross, clock in at 3 at the post office. Was married at the time, and it did not bode well with the marriage. The job was okay. I could live with the job, you know. I ended up getting on a day shift and working the front counter, the stamp counter where we met. But at the time, you know, I was working in the back, and 3 o'clock in the morning and 50 weeks out of a year. And I said, guys, I'm quitting the band. We find a replacement. And
Well, we all inspired each other. I remember I'd go watch Gravy practice. Sean had a band with your nephew, Graham,
yeah.
and Jesse, and Will
Will Thrift. Yeah.
Will Thrift. I even played bass before y'all got Jesse, because you had Jonathan Gibson for a minute.
Yeah.
And then you asked me, and I said, well, I'm not a bass player, and I'd go try to practice with y'all. But really, I just wanted to go listen most of the time. Y'all had this really awesome song that Graham, I don't remember the name of it, but Graham's lyrics were Coca-Cola ain't sweeter than me. And y'all go, dun, 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 dun,
Yeah.
dun.
Oh, yeah.
Dun, dun.
It
And I
was,
stole that and added that to Black Holiday, that dun, dun,
Yeah.
dun, dun, them hits, them
Yeah.
6 notes. And
Where
The
did
Real
your
Thing,
your
that's the name.
your
the real thing.
your guitar playing finally come up to par with
Well,
everything else?
What ended up
what year would that have been that you?
when I moved here, I stayed real busy in the bedroom because there was I just didn't
what the?
I just locked myself in my room and tried to work, and then at night I'd go hang out with Sean and we'd pick, or I go to TW's house. TW was the only one who had his own place out in Waresboro, which natives of Waycross would pronounce
Wasbear.
Wasboro.
I lived right across from TW out there.
So, living at my folks' house, there was a lot of people there. There was 7 of us living there at one point.
Donna Horan said she would hear him out in a canoe in the pond, and she'd hear clang, 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 way out in the water.
That was Brantley County.
I don't know that
Donna
story.
Horan?
I don't know that story, but
I've heard that story.
Me and Sean and TW, we just all worked so hard at what we like doing. We always had a guitar in our hand.
Yeah.
And that's how it just went for years and years and years. We all made each other better.
All right. So now, what was the year? It would have had to been 2000s
Was
because I was
2002.
already working at Crosstown
It was
in 2001.
2002.
2002, you came back from
to Waycross.
Jacksonville to Waycross. I remember all of this as it happened, because it was all you popped in the store one day. I can't remember if you were with your sister, probably. And it was just like full of life and light and energy and everything, into the music store. And then next thing you know, y'all are together.
That's right. Sean married my sister. I married Laurie, and we both had children within
They're
2 months of each
They're
other.
a month and a day apart or something.
So
Yeah.
No. I'm sorry. They're a couple months apart. They're
so
like 5
our
months
boys are
apart.
both cousins, and they're
Just close.
They're very,
Real
very close in
close, yeah.
age. And
So that was,
it all just happened like a whirlwind. Everything just happened so
2002,
quick.
Really
y'all
did.
got married? 22?
No, we
or
got married in 2003.
2003. And let's see, I had just come back from Atlanta, and I was working at the Swamp Park.
He
Remember,
was.
I was doing
Yeah.
the boat tours.
Yeah. Yeah.
Snake shows.
Snake handler.
I was
was a
doing
snake
the,
handler.
I was
There's a
doing the
snake you can handle right there.
I was doing the reptile shows at the Swamp Park.
It's the reptile.
And Laurie had moved here from
Jacksonville.
Jacksonville, fresh out of a divorce on the rebound. And I was looking for someone to sing with, that Emmylou thing. And we started singing together. And she was all into Tori Amos and Tool. So I had to teach her about Americana music.
So when I came back to Waycross, my sister and Bonnie, Chris's sister, who was married to Sean, they lived in a duplex beside each other. I was ready to start a fresh new life and get into music, and he was.
You
looking
wanted
for
to move to
someone-
New York City.
I was about to move to New York City. Thank God I did not do that.
No kidding.
I actually had
Just
plane
think
tickets
about that
to
for
go.
a minute. Just think about that for a
Yeah.
minute. How delicate that little ribbon of life is, where a decision that you make, your left leg is going this way, your right leg is going that way, and one of them wins out.
Divine intervention.
18 years. 18. This will be 18.
18 years
That
married.
y'all
18
have been
years.
married.
That's right.
That's fantastic.
19 years together.
Mm-hmm.
And Sean started Jack Cadillac right around that time.
Was it? Yeah.
Around what time when y'all got married?
2003.
Well, right around the time Cohen and Christian were born.
Yeah.
2000.
And that was with John Pope and your cousin Brandon Doty.
Yeah.
And who was the drummer?
Well,
Originally, it was
John,
Pope.
Pope was the drummer, even though he was the best guitar player. But we didn't have a drummer, so he was the only one that could play drums. And
But y'all debuted at Twin Earth. Was
Yeah.
that the name of it? I was
It was
there.
Halloween night.
Oh, well,
I
I,
was
thought
there.
it was the curl up and die.
Yeah, I don't know if that was our first show, but it was pretty
Yeah.
close.
I thought y'all had just a open night Bob Dylan tribute concert at Curl Up and Die, and then you ended up playing with John and Brandon, and there was a spark, there was a connection. And to me, John Pope is your guitar player.
Oh man,
I mean, I love to hear you with all of them. Don't
Yeah.
get me wrong.
I totally agree.
But man, you could play a song for John Pope, and he seems to just get where you're coming from.
yeah, he already feels what.
He's so artistic.
Yeah.
That's
I mean,
how
he really
TW was for me
Yeah.
back in the Hayshaker days. I could show TW a song, and he'd be like, "Oh yeah, I know where you're coming from."
I love when that happens with other
Chemistry.
musicians. Yeah.
That's you mentioned a while ago that you said that I was so supportive of everybody. I appreciate that and everything, but I've always felt that about the two of y'all. Your bands.
When we weren't butting heads.
Your bands and your bands, y'all have always been like, you see, I never had bands. You know, I might have been supportive. Come on in the house, boy, sit down.
Well, you had
know?
cover bands.
Can I feed you?
You had cover bands. You had Rhythm Oil.
Yeah, but you're a bunch of old guys.
I reckon.
Y'all were youth.
You guys were awesome.
Y'all were youth, and over and over again, y'all grabbed the younglings.
What
as
choice?
they-
It was,
as-
it was what choice? That was a
as they were-
survival
as they were
technique.
coming out of high
Like-
school, but they were
like-
talent. They
as-
were talent.
Well,
But y'all,
Yeah.
I mean, let's talk
y'all
about-
got them to express themselves.
Let's talk about
and-
the talented people, because there's
Well,
something in
you're
the
talking
water.
about John Pope, Brandon Doty, and then Dylan Crosby.
Dylan
Entered
Crosby.
into that.
Lee O'Neill played with us 1st
That's right.
When
It
we-
was Lee.
When we finally got a drummer,
Lee
about,
O'Neill, we're talking about a friend from Brunswick, Georgia, on drums.
yeah, and I played with him in the Blackjacks.
Right.
But how many guitar players are in Waycross that are just so good? I mean, Jamie Moore,
Yeah,
Josh
Kirkland.
Kirkland,
Yeah.
John Pope, TW a lot. I mean, you
Yeah,
just go
and
on,
I
and
put- Put both of y'all in that category.
well, we're
too,
songwriters.
John Carter.
Tony Kaysen.
Tony Kaysen.
John,
We're
John Carter.
all four of us are songwriters. We're not guitar players.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not a
Rick-
guitar player.
The
I'm,
last rhythm guitar
I'll
player.
call
Yeah.
myself a songwriter before anything. But getting back to my point is, you took a young man who could play guitar named Josh Sharp, and he just decided out of the clear blue that he's
Well,
going
that was
to
all Josh Sharp. He put the time and work in.
he's
on that.
going to tackle a pedal steel guitar. And folks, that ain't easy.
And
But
he's
you're
so
talking
good.
about, you gave him a platform. You gave him a platform to take that and express himself and learn as he was going. You know, it ain't everybody that would do that. You know,
Well,
so everybody is. I guess what it boils down to is like this article right here in the Georgia Music Magazine from 2011, winter of 2011. This good friend of ours, Steve LeBate,
Debate.
came down and interviewed us because they saw that there was something in the water going on down here in Waycross, Georgia. Anyhow, it's like Laurie says in here, and I quote,
put your spectacles on.
excuse me. Sorry, they're not pink. It said, we've been through deaths, marriages, divorces, babies being born, tornadoes. It's family. There's this big wheel, and you keep it going. We all inspire each other to be the best we can be. That's it in a nutshell, folks.
Yeah,
That's Waycross music for you right there. And
worded well.
if anybody chooses to deny that, Just email us at somethinginthewater@gmail.com.
Well, let's think about it. I mean, at one point or another, we've all been in a band.
Yeah.
I mean, you were in Hayshaker. You
Yep,
played bass
played
for
bass
us.
with y'all for a
And
while.
how many road trips did we do with Dave?
We
A
did.
lot.
We had,
Songs
that
were
was a
written.
good time.
And you and Sean, how many road trips have y'all done?
Bunch.
Yeah.
And even when I did my solo stuff, Sean backed me.
That's
up.
right. The
So-
Pine Box Dwellers did a couple gigs with you. And that's what makes this place special to me. I know this happens everywhere. Musicians play with each other, but we're such a small town. Everyone knows each other. Everyone's in each other's business. And there's only a handful of people to choose from. So we've all been in bands with one another.
Yeah.
I think we've all learned something from one another. You know?
That's
sure.
right. And
Absolutely.
what about the jam sessions we used to have in the basement of Whitfield's?
Yeah.
Oh, Lord. Yeah.
Now that's when we were green
Yeah.
and we were just starting out.
Going for it though.
That was
Yeah.
when Charlie
Chastain.
Chastain owned
Senior.
it.
Charlie
Owned it.
Chastain
Charlie
Senior.
Senior owned it. Yeah.
And Paul owned Crosstown right a block away.
That was some good times.
And that's when the magic happened. Because I just show up late at night not knowing who's in the basement. And you never knew.
Yeah.
And it would be, come on up here on this little 2-inch riser stage.
Yeah.
Smell like mildew down there.
It was, that's what it's.
And then the
Beautiful.
transformation was Lita and Larry opened up the creek eventually,
Yeah.
and everything shifted down there and gave
Yeah.
us a platform to play and book.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, one of the best, craziest gigs I ever played was me and you at JR's Pub.
With TW. Two
No.
picks and a stick.
Was he there the night that
Yes, because he threw a beer bottle through his own window in his Mustang and busted
Really?
it out. He thought the window was down on the ride over, and he tried to chunk a beer bottle out the window and busted his glass. He shows up with no window.
the tequila night?
We can talk about it because there's a lot that happened that night. Now, number one, we didn't have any songs. We just made them up
Yeah,
as
we
we went.
it. We were just
And time became kind of wish-washy. I don't know how long our set was. Did we play for 15 minutes or an hour?
we didn't take break. I don't think we took a break. We just
I blacked out. I'm not going to lie. I remember standing on a table
I don't
making...
remember TW being
When
there.
you're
so-
blacked out, 15 minutes is an hour.
I remember standing on top of a table making up a Spanish song.
Oh, no.
Lord, why didn't they all
that's
video
when,
that?
and that's when you
There were
still
no
had
cell
a lot
phones
of...
back then.
Sean still had a lot of friends that still lived here because they hadn't moved off yet, and we packed that place out.
It was
What
packed
year
out.
was this?
96, 97.
Yeah.
And y'all, the name of the band was Two Picks and a Stick.
Well, that's what Tiffany Parrott named us.
Yeah.
But I don't know that TW
I totally
was
forgot
there.
about that whole thing about TW.
Now,
I remember. Now that you say it, I remember. But
Remember, a man came running out of the bar. He got very excited, and he jumped on someone's
car hood, just like
We're standing there smoking cigarettes just at the end of the night, drunk, and someone comes running out like, ah!
no. Let me back up. Everybody busted out of the two doors at the same time. Like everybody's leaving, and it was just like a happy crowd. We were trashed, and I'll tell you how we got that way in a second. But like we bust out, and everybody's just kind of spilling out into the
Parking lot.
and then this random guy just jumps up on purpose, like on his side, like right onto a hood of a car that's right there, and smashes it. And they're like,
Smashes the car.
and the people that
so.
don't know him, that it's their car, are going, because they're having a good time. They're all like, hey, and then they're like,
Then all of a sudden,
the realization of
Oh.
like, no, what are you doing?
dude.
But
Okay, you got to go back because we weren't called Two Picks and a Sticks. I just remembered we didn't have a band name, and Mr. JR named us.
I think that this night
He
it was
named
just-
you that?
No, Sean will tell you the
I
name.
think it was just me and you playing this particular night.
Okay, it was just me and you, and he named us. Remember
Yeah. Oh man.
Just
the Rose,
the
the Rose of Paradise.
the Rose of Paradise. Man. Okay, wait. We're telling this all backwards.
Oh, that is so gay.
We're probably getting too nice confused.
sorry,
but
No,
Y'all are.
And he had such a
Was that a different
nice
night?
personality. He came up and he put his arms around both of us. He said, "Boys, everyone," right into the microphone if we had one. I don't even know we had a microphone. He said,
Hopefully not.
"I've come
right?
up with a name for y'all. The Roast of Paradise."
Yeah.
The Roast of Paradise.
Was this
Rose.
Valdosta? Are y'all talking about JR? Are y'all talking about
This is
Valdosta?
just-
No,
Waycross.
it was.
Oh, okay.
It was right out.
JR's pub
it was,
here in Waycross.
It was where the water department is
Albany.
now.
Used to be a
On
bank.
Albany, the corner of Albany and
Albany.
Augusta. That was so the good old days. Well, let's talk about Laurie. Now, go back and tell us your musical beginnings.
When I was born.
I mean, you
My
came.
mom was the minister of music at all the churches we were in. She was also a music major and a music teacher. So it was just a form of language in my
Yeah.
household. So I never
so
really.
you came out.
2 weeks, I
knowing
think, after
about
I
it,
was
yeah.
born, I was on the stage with my mom.
Wow.
Yeah. So I did musicals. And then when I got
Girls
older,
Trio.
Girls Trio, I did theater. I've done, I did all that stuff. But then when I moved away, I didn't really, I was just ready to party and find myself. So I didn't really put music on the
And
forefront.
Jacksonville is a good place
To party.
for that.
Yes.
For partying and finding
I
yourself.
feel like some of those were wasted years, but
Yeah, but you ended up finding yourself.
I did. Yeah, through many nights of
Trying.
things.
Through raves.
So yeah, I did the whole rave thing, and But anyway, when I came back to Waycross,
What were you doing down there, though? I mean, as
just
far as
bartending and
bartending, okay.
yeah,
which is
25
what you
And
still
years.
do.
raving.
Which is
25
what you
years.
Still do, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So then I came back to Waycross and I was about to move. I was literally going to be here for like 3 days. And I was going to live in New York City with a friend of mine who had just moved up there to become a comedian.
Ah,
And so I was going to go. She really wanted me to come live with her. But at the very next day, Bonnie and my sister introduced us
At Whitfield's.
at Whitfield's.
okay.
And the next day I woke up and he had left a CD, which was the
Titty flopping.
live CD, the Graham live CD.
Oh.
He left that for me to pick up. And so I listened to it, and I'm born and raised here. I didn't ever really, I hated country, actually. It wasn't something that I really got. Girlfriends would listen to like Hank Sr. and Loretta, and it just never really clicked with me until I moved back to
I thought
Waycross.
you said your friends' parents listened
Well,
to that
they
kind of-
did.
What
Your
did
friends
On the way to
listen-
school, we would listen to
Your
What was
it.
friends
your
listen to
impression
Garth
of that
Brooks.
So when I listened to it, I think it came in such an important time period of my life that if I had listened to it any time before then, it would have not been so monumental in my life at that very moment when I listened to it, because I was going through such a transition, that.
But you got it.
Oh, I fell in love. I mean, totally fell in love, and fell in love with the whole thing. Coming back to Waycross and hating where I grew up, and then coming back to such a musical family, and just I was like, where were all these cool people when I lived here?
But you already had a musical background.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not only from what your mama provided in church and everything, but didn't you play?
Well, I played piano all my life. I mean,
All your
nothing
life, yeah.
classical or anything like that. I played flute. I've, like I said, never really thought about pursuing anything because it was already such a second nature in my life. So it was just part of, it's like breathing.
What about
So-
guitar?
No, I did not learn guitar until I met Chris, and I was 26 years old. And you couldn't necessarily drag a piano everywhere to bonfires.
Well, wait a
Yeah.
minute. So you learned guitar after Hayshaker broke up, and I started playing with Josh in the Traveling Riverside band.
Right.
And you
I
were
wanted
like-
to start writing
Fairly
songs. I
recent
wanted to
then.
write. I wanted
Fairly
to.
within the past 5 years.
No, Traveling
Yeah.
Riverside band's 11 years now.
Yeah.
11 years?
Mm-hmm.
Jesus.
Yeah, we started right around the same time Sean
Yeah.
started Pine Box.
Man. Time
We've
flies.
only been
So you've been playing guitar now
6,
for
7
For
years.
since I was
10
26.
or 11 years.
For 10 years, she's been playing
10
guitar.
years.
Mm-hmm. But it was just to learn to write songs. It was just to write songs because I had years and years and years of journals, and I wanted, it was a break in Hayshaker, so I wanted to venture out and write songs. And so, I mean, even when I was a little girl, I would climb up into hymn books that had no words in it, and I would write songs about Jesus. So just wanted to learn how to play instruments just so that I could incorporate them into some sort of song.
Now, that's the key right there, folks. Songwriting. Everybody in this room right here. That's probably, well, I know, speaking for myself, it's the biggest strength that I have to put out there as far as music goes. That's what I live for and am most engaged with musically, whereas some people are like, what's this, But the fact that you had journals and everything, and then what about your first song?
My first song that I wrote?
Yeah. When would that have been?
It was Mexico City Horror, and I wrote that right in front of Sean, I think.
And that would have been that late 90s.
Well, the middle
period,
of the
right?
90s.
See,
The middle of the 90s was so weird because Kurt Cobain had just died, and it seems like grunge and all that stuff lost its shine for me.
Yeah.
And I think you felt the same way.
Yeah.
Everything started becoming more of the same. And so we went backwards to Robert Johnson, Hank Sr., Johnny Cash, went back to the 60s, found all the good stuff. The roots music. And I don't know, everything sounded so overproduced and marketed, and it's just, I don't know. Maybe it was with age. Maybe that's naturally what happens. But Sean and I wrote songs together for a long time, and I don't know if any of them really stuck, the ones that we wrote together. We had one called, it was kind of a spin-off of Graham's song, Drugstore Truck Driving Man.
I remember.
Oh,
It's time for that real truck driving music.
Yeah. Man.
I don't know if I've heard that, but I'd like to.
That was like all the words to it, wasn't it? It was just that line.
I had one.
Say it again.
I had one
It's
that was.
time for that real truck driving music.
Remember the
time for
one
that
I
real
had,
truck
a
driving
Ku
music.
Klux Commie Bico Disco Lovers.
Yeah. What? Wow.
Okay.
We were really into lyrics.
Y'all were into drugs.
Well, there might have been some of that too.
Laurie, when you talking about your journals and everything, did you actually compose a song that you could say, I wrote a song today? Did you ever do that, or was it all about Chris after y'all got together?
No. I started writing songs that were for me.
Yeah.
That I just wanted to get out. You have those songs that just need to come out.
So
And
you
I've got
wrote on the
a
piano.
lot of those.
You wrote a lot on the piano.
Most of the time, I write first on piano,
Yeah.
then I transpose it to guitar. But we actually didn't start writing songs together until very recently.
That's right. Because Laurie writes from more of an emotional place, and I like to use a lot of nouns and try to be clever.
Both of y'all songwriting is impressive as hell.
But very different.
It is
completely
different.
different.
It is different.
Different from one another.
Yeah.
Like she has different influences than I do, but we started writing songs together when we do write.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to find the time to write now.
Yeah.
We're so busy, and I stay busy performing, and it's just tough. You were saying your strength is songwriting. Now my strength has become my voice and just entertaining tourists.
Yeah. Well, that works too,
Yeah.
You put an album out,
Mm-hmm.
a solo album.
Mm-hmm. 2013,
Yeah, that's right.
I think.
Wow. This year
2012,
thing is
something
just
like
killing
that.
me
No,
here.
it's 2013. That's
Mhm.
right.
I didn't realize how it's gotten away from me
I know.
so bad.
It's not just you.
So 2013, God. And I remember we backed you up on stage at
Mm-hmm.
some of the festivals.
Mm-hmm.
But that was a great album.
Yeah, it
That was
was.
a really good.
It's
good
so
album.
amateur now when I listen
Not
to
really.
it.
Isn't that funny how that works? I listen back to anything that we did back then. It's like, ugh, this doesn't sound so good.
It's just so funny how I was on stage my whole entire life. I did musicals, Girls Trio. I mean, I actually replaced Elizabeth Cook in the Girls Trio that I was in high soprano.
Okay, that's right. Because Elizabeth Cook went to Pierce County.
Yep, she
That's
graduated
right.
a couple years before I did, and
And y'all went to state
we went to state. It was the first
The
Girls
first-
Trio that ever went to state.
with Laurie singing
I
high
was there.
soprano.
What is Girls Trio? What is that?
Harmony group.
three-girl
is it
harmony group.
acapella?
It's
Yes.
acapella harmony group.
That's tough.
Yeah,
That's
we did it in
hard.
a cathedral in Macon, Georgia. It was
Golly.
just
But she got kicked out because she wouldn't quit smoking cigarettes.
There's always that side of the story.
You heard it here. I wonder what Elizabeth Cook got kicked out for.
She would have no shame in telling you.
No, she wouldn't. Bless her heart.
But what I was getting at is I sang my whole entire life, and it wasn't until I met Chris and decided to pursue music further that I went into the studio for the first time in my life, and I quit singing for 6 months. I absolutely despised everything that I heard. It just
As a result of going into the studio,
Yeah, she didn't like the
hearing
way her
myself.
voice sounded.
you think
That's the
hear-
age-old thing, though.
Yeah, it is.
On tape,
It is.
anybody can. Once you're recorded, the first thing you say is, "Ooh, that don't sound like me."
Definitely makes
Yeah.
you. It definitely dissects you,
Yeah.
and it makes you build yourself. You have to build yourself back out of it, and I think that's one of my strengths is in
You
the
did.
vocal. Coming out of that vocal
You were able to
fear.
take that and reform.
after long, grueling, self pity hours. Yes, I was able to do that. But then I learned a lot about myself in as far as vocals go when I recorded with Mark Neal. He's a Grammy Award winning producer, and he really made me. He took me to the roots.
Well, he worked you.
Literally, he worked me all
That was
day long.
The guy that did the Black Keys,
Yes, he did the Black Keys
Brothers album.
Brothers album.
and he also did that guy that Justin that
Charlie Crockett.
Charlie Crockett. Have y'all listened to any of his?
I don't think
No.
so.
Charlie Crockett,
man.
give it a spin.
J.D. McPherson is another one that he did that's really good too. But I spent hours and hours and hours in the studio with him, so that really pushed me out too.
Yeah, he was a good vocal coach.
Mm-hmm.
Was he easygoing to work with and all?
Not really.
In hindsight, any thoughts about those recording sessions would be to come out in advice. Like anytime you do something where you're spending a lot of money, make sure you get a contract. Everything's in writing because it's real easy for someone to not do what they say they're going to do. That's my experience with that man. But it wasn't all bad. He helped us out with a lot of things with tone and tuning.
Out of our range.
Yeah, they're like, why are you singing these songs so high? Let's drop the key a little bit. So he made us better vocalists for sure.
Yeah, he did.
So where y'all at right now with this? Okay, well let me just say this. A year ago, pretty much a year ago from the time that y'all are watching this, America went into a pandemic shutdown, and for the first time, Congress okayed some money for gig workers, which applies to musicians. Unemployment money for gig workers, which applied to musicians for the very first time. And you had to jump through the hoops and over the hurdles, and there were many. And that little girl right there helped us all through and kept us focused. I don't know how you did it, but
A handful of you.
Well, she
did it.
She ain't scared to sit at a computer and figure something out for hours. I get aggravated with the computer. I'm like, oh.
Man, that thing was so aggravated to do all that.
It was unbelievable. It was as
was
much as you
it
can
was
imagine.
deserved, is what it
Bureaucratic
was.
red tape, bureaucratic red tape was this application that you had pages and pages and pages. But you
Figured it out.
figured it out and siphoned it down to something that we could all relate to, and led the way and helping all of us.
Hell,
get
we stayed on the
through
phone with you
on
for
that.
hours.
Yeah.
And then you helped everyone else out.
Mm-hmm. But
It goes back to that wheel.
yeah, that wheel.
That wheel.
It's a big old Waycross wheel, and
No, I just, I know all of my musician friends, and they were just going to all sit back and not do anything. And I was
They
like,
were.
this is for you. If you
Yeah.
don't get it, somebody else is.
yeah.
It's yours to take.
So here we are, a year later. I'm still getting mine. How about y'all?
I'd rather talk about your 50th birthday.
Oh, no.
Well, yeah, that was the
That
day
was
that time
was
went
Tequila
backwards.
Rose.
Isn't that when everyone gave you a bottle of tequila? Didn't you
I
have
got-
like 12 bottles of tequila?
Folks, if you don't know me by now, then you don't know that tequila is my choice, my drink of choice. And
Mine too.
I like a little shot every now and then. And I'll explain why later. But on my 50th birthday, that would have been 50, 2003. Yeah, it'd been 2003. I was surprised by my daughter, Megan, had worked up this surprise, and it ain't easy to pull the wool over my eyes. Now, I'm on to you, but I wasn't. I wasn't that day. I was slipping that day because when I drove up the hill after work, got to my house, there was cars lining the ditch all the way around the house.
A lot of cars.
And when I went in the house, the front door of the house, it was quiet as a mouse. I said, "Okay, brace yourself, Dave. You fixing to have to endure this surprise party." And so I opened the sliding door onto the patio, and there was everybody out there, surprised. That was the day that time went backwards for me. I swear to God. Now, it was probably tequila and pot and several other things going on there that made time go backwards. But I was kidnapped also in my own van and by my nephew Graham and Donna Horan and somebody else. And they drove me way out Central Avenue and shotgunned me in the face, and then turned around and put me back in the van and drove back to the party. And I looked at my watch, and I know that 2 hours had gone by, but it was saying it was still saying
Well,
7 o'clock.
Can I
I'm
tell?
just confused. Why did they drive you all the way out Central Avenue
I
to
don't
do
know. That's
that?
that's the way we used to do things.
That's just how we did it, right? We
Okay.
find a dirt road way off of Central, kill some time.
That's how we did it back in my day. I don't know why we was doing it when I was 50.
But can I tell everyone how I found you that night?
No, probably not.
I don't care,
Because all right, so there was a line going to the bathroom.
yeah, the
Into
bathroom
the
in my
ba-
house.
in
Now,
your-
the party was held in the backyard, but at some point, my wife put me to bed because I couldn't handle it anymore. And my master bedroom has a master bathroom. That's where everybody was going to relieve
So
themselves.
Lynn catches me on the way to the bathroom, and she says, "Just go to the master bathroom. Just
Yeah.
cut through the bedroom."
Okay,
So I go in, and there's Dave, face down,
on the bed,
pants
on the
around
bed.
your ankles, bare naked ass, cowboy hat over your face.
Oh my gosh.
with vomit in the shoe down
No,
there.
that was later.
Oh, okay.
Because when Bonnie walked back through there, then there was vomit involved.
Well, folks, if you ever have to vomit when you're drunk, make sure you're on your stomach.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Make
Bon
sure
Scott
your
could have
face
used that
down,
advice.
which Uncle Dave was, and I'm telling you, it works.
But you know what? Now, we were just talking about when I started traveling Riverside Band, and it just occurred to me that right around the time you started Jack Cadillac, we started Hayshaker. Right around the time I started traveling Riverside Band, you started Pine Box
Pine
Dwellers.
Box, yeah.
Isn't that so weird? We had
Yeah.
children right around the same time.
That is weird.
And everything's kind of
Y'all's
evolved.
career arc.
And
is-
as traveling Riverside
Yeah.
Band has kind of winded down, and I've become a solo artist, Pine Box has kind of winded down, and now it's you and Connor. It's so weird.
And I think it's amazing, and it should not go without saying that I think it's awesome that both of you have been able to maintain your lives based on music. I think that's so important because I tell people all the time how proud I am of that for him, because I'm quite jealous that that I'm not out there doing that. I live a little too frivolous of a lifestyle, but but that is, to me, that is.
But wait a minute, you're out singing more now than you have been.
I'm not saying that I don't still do it. I'm just saying to solely be a musician, making money, humping it, and doing what y'all do, I think that deserves a lot of respect, because not many people get to do what they love to do for a living, especially you, Sean, because you created a way to do it with your
original
music,
That's
which
right.
is so hard to do, because so many of us, well, I know for me, for speaking for us, we so many times had to put the songwriting to the back burner because it wasn't what was making money. So we had to turn away from that. But it's what an honor to be able to do something like that. I think that's really awesome.
Yeah, that's the toughest. That's the riddle, isn't it?
Yeah.
One, you want to find your own
How do
voice.
you do that? Yeah.
Right.
For a songwriter, you want to find your own voice, right? Because you don't want to
You
sound like
struggle
someone
to get
else.
there, yeah.
And then you got to find a platform and a way to present your product to people. And Sean, you're the only person who's managed to
That
do
will
that
pay
consistently.
you. That will pay
I
you
think
back.
I'm sitting in a room full of people who've
No,
done
I'm a cover artist now. I mean, really,
every one of y'all have written and recorded original.
We're not saying
Yeah, but
that.
what
We're saying
what they're saying is you're making a living. You're making
you
your
pursued it.
gigs are paying you money, and you're able to play a lot more originals than we do.
you created a space for people to enjoy your music. I know that's something that you did that when people go to see you. So when people go to see us, they're like, "Oh, can you play what? Play this,
play that Beatles
play
song
that."
for us.
Yeah, play that song that you play so well.
You know any James
but
Taylor?
you created a space where people. I mean, I've seen it. I've worked in
They
a bar
wanna
that
hear-
you played
they
in for
wanna hear,
years. People knew your music and
Yeah.
wanted to hear your music more than they did cover music, and that's
brave.
that's bravery, and that's success. That's success.
Well, thank you.
Folks, we're here on Something in the Water podcast with our guest, Sean Clark. Y'all
You
just
get the pillow now. Grab it.
y'all just turned the table on him.
Well, if y'all smell something, I drank some coffee before I came here.
Well, folks,
No.
we're going to take a quick break right now, and when we come back, we're going to have some original music for you
Oh yeah.
from the Riders, and maybe a little bit of Uncle Dave and some Sean Clark too. We'll be right back.
Something in my brain won't let me stray. Something in my veins gonna find its way. Something in the water taught me how to pray. When that cold black water finds its way into your veins, you'll never be the same.
Welcome back, everybody. We're going to do a little thing right now. It's a truck driving song that I wrote in honor of my sweet baby girl, Megan. And it's called Curl Up and Die, with the help of the Riders.
Won't you curl up and die in my arms, little darling? Won't you curl up and die in my arms, little one? Your daddy is home and the full moon is falling. Stop weeping, your crying is done. Your crying is done. I've traveled from Tampa to Tempe. I've wandered many a mile. I've seen wondrous things, but they left me half empty compared to your beautiful smile. So won't you curl up and die in my arms, little darling? Won't you curl up and die in my arms, little one? Your daddy is home and the full moon is falling. Stop weeping, your crying is done. Your crying is done. Well, the road is my constant companion. Highway's my closest friend. I'd swim the West Coast and I'd jump the Grand Canyon just to lie in sweet arms again. Won't you curl up and die in my arms, little darling? Won't you curl up and die in my arms, little one? Your daddy is home and the full moon is falling. Stop weeping, your crying is done. Your crying is done. Little curl up and die for you. Now I'd like to turn it over to the Riders for an original tune.
Hi, we're Ryder. I'm Laurie, and this is Chris, my husband. We're going to play a song for you today called Long Way. We actually have it on vinyl, so if you're interested, hit us up.
1, 2.
Maybe we could take the long way home tonight. Windows down, so with no headlight. Under the moon like a raven dune, I profess my profound love. You'll say yes and we can settle down. Leaning, reeling like you always wanted to. Let's always tell the truth. Maybe we could take the long way home tonight. 'Cause I can't stand not one more single bite. And I'll grow and prune under that moon until I can no more. You'll say yes and we can settle down. Leaning, reeling like you always wanted to. Let's always tell the truth. You'll say yes and we can settle down. Leaning, reeling like you always wanted to. Let's always tell the truth.
Lee was on drums.
I don't
and
even remember this. now.
You had to throw up, and you were holding the bass, and you puked behind the bass amp and kept
Oh,
playing.
that is so rock and roll, man. I love it, and I don't remember it.
And you just kept playing.
Now, see,
We're like,
is this recording?
Yeah.
Welcome back, folks. You've just been treated to a little outtake. That's an intake, and this
it was an
it's-
outtake.
That's funny.
It might have been an outtake.
It was a take about.
But we're just rehashing some old good men. We share, me and these folks here, we have shared secrets, songs, stories,
Spit.
stages,
Secret song story stages.
and there's another S in there somewhere.
Well, stages could be a double entendre.
Oh, yeah. It's like, I'm in my larva stage.
It's a very bad period.
But this is so nice to have y'all on tonight.
Well, thank y'all for having us.
And I don't know if we've covered everything, but if we get into the secrets, we're liable to have to shut the show down.
Well, let me say this. Let me say this because it's on my mind right now. Remember when you and I used to ride the Locos?
Pull your mic to you.
Pull it to me.
Yeah.
Remember we used to ride the Locos on Sundays when Sean Swinson owned it
From here.
from here. And you would go with me as
Yeah.
a duo,
Yeah.
and you have your songbook, and I
Yeah.
still do like 3 or 4 songs from that songbook when I do my solo.
And I've still got some of your printed out pages in my songbook.
But between that and Whitfield's, that's kind of where I cut my teeth on learning how to play in front of people. Because you would be so kind to join me. You were like, yeah, if you're driving, I'll go. And I would book the gigs, and then we played it when Zach owned it.
Yeah.
And
we
so,
did. We had a group called Cousin at one time.
with Graham.
The three piece.
That's right. So
With my nephew Graham Griffin.
between you and Ray Heron, I would say that y'all kind of mentored. Well, I can't speak for everyone in Waycross, but for me, I mean, Ray gave me sound advice time and time again.
Yeah. Well, he taught me my first chords on the guitar. Well, my first thing on the guitar was the bass line for Jimi Hendrix' Hey Joe. It was on a 4-string Silvertone guitar that was missing the B and the E string, the 2 little strings. It was leaning up in the corner of his trailer, and I expressed an interest in the bass guitar. And he said, well, here, this has got 4 strings on it. Here, let me show you. Jimi Hendrix, Hey Joe. And I never looked back after that. So
You started bass? You started on bass? Okay.
started out on bass guitar. And Billy Ray Heron is who we're talking about. Another old timer.
Historian.
Historian.
Like,
Historian.
like me. He's, y'all have heard us, well, he's been on one of the podcasts before, but y'all have heard us talk about Billy Ray. He is the local historian, the man on Graham Parsons, and who was also from Waycross.
And he just pays attention to how music.
Details.
He pays attention to how music affects society and culture.
Absolutely.
And he looks at the trends, and he knows what's coming. And he always told me, the best thing he told me was, don't think with your ego. And I use that all the time.
He's a smart fella.
Yes, he is.
Mm-hmm. And his son is Jesse Heron, who played bass with the Pine Box Dwellers.
And in Hayshaker.
And Hayshaker. And
on my album.
And on your
On
album.
your album. And ran the only recording studio we had in town that I can think of.
Hickory Wind Recording Studio.
Which was Sweetbriar Recording Studios first.
Right. And
Billy
me and Billy Ray used to record songs and send them up to Bill Lowry. And we had some 7 songs published with the Lowry group in the early 90s. But then his son, Jesse Heron, took that over. And all of these young up-and-comers
Three generations
took
of
advantage
Herons.
of that.
Three generations of Herons that have influenced and impacted all of us. Pretty cool.
It is. It's the wheel.
It's the wheel.
And now it's time for a tale of the week written by myself. And this one is not in the book, but it is very relevant to our guest tonight. And excuse me for...
Is this about the Athens trip?
No. I don't think I don't, and that's a very much a shortcoming for me, because back when I was doing a weekly blog online, I did it for 2.5 years. Every week I came out with a new story, and I don't think one of those addressed my time playing bass with Hayshaker.
That's right, yeah.
I don't think I ever wrote about that, and it's not.
Well, it's in a song.
Anybody's fault. It's just my lapse of memory. But anyhow, this one is. This one doesn't have a title, but it concerns a beautiful acoustic guitar that I once owned. There's an old saying, if you love something, set it free. If it comes back, it's yours. If not, it was never meant to be. Well, that's a nice little psychological assumption meant for romantic relationships and hit songs by Sting, I suppose. But when it comes to guitars, can I please just have mine back? Back in 2003, I was working for Paul Lee at Crosstown Music, dealer of fine acoustic guitars in downtown Waycross, Georgia. Just around the corner was Velvet Groove, a memorabilia store specializing in vinyl records and operated by local lawyer Scott Crowley and singer-songwriter, this guy, Sean Clark. Bonnie, sister of Chris Ryder, and Sean's wife at the time, was a hairdresser and was granted space in the rear of the store for her coiffure stylings and hair colorings, calling it Curl Up and Die. The name inspired me to write a song, less about perms and such, and more about love between daddies and daughters. Past the storefront display windows, inside the Velvet Groove, there were funky artifacts everywhere. From vintage clothes and collectible figurines to dated school lunch boxes and lava lamps. A side staircase led to an upstairs loft where musicians would gather for informal jams or songwriting sessions. For one of many musical gatherings, the city street in front of the store was cordoned off and a sturdy flatbed trailer was rolled in as a performance stage featuring some of Waycross's finest. You were on the bill that night, I believe.
I think we were both on the bill that night, Laurie and I.
Yeah.
She probably sang Alicia Keys.
Oh, God.
I was asked to sit in on a couple of songs with the local band Grass Hat, featuring Jesse Heron, Justin Minshew, Jamie Moore, and Will Thrift. I took out my trusty old 1977 Takamine acoustic guitar from its leather case and started tuning. Before I strolled on stage to play and sing backup on Neil Young's Cortez the Killer and Polk Salad Annie by Tony Joe White, I took a stiff poke of Jose Cuervo from the bottle in my guitar case. Living in the temperate South Georgia climate brings on an annual assault of allergies that burdens me year-round thanks to my age. But what I've found as a remedy is my go-to pre-vocal warm-up exercise designed to clean out those pipes. A shot of tequila. You've heard me say that many a night.
Many times. Are you forgetting the Bud Light?
A shot of tequila and a Bud Light, please. A shot of tequila from nature's blue agave plant. Preferably with salt. Salt been around since early civilization figured out it was crucial to human health. And a slice of lime, a natural healer, unless you squirt it in your eye, all combining to help ease and eliminate what I like to call LGTC. That's Lower Georgia Throat Crud. It also provides a warm, fuzzy, confident feeling that helps you communicate with the audience. I highly recommend it to all aspiring singers and wannabe AA members. My regimen was under control until the rain clouds began to unleash above us, forcing all who had gathered in the name of music to seek shelter in the upstairs loft of the Velvet Groove. One of my standout memories of the evening was John Pope's acoustic rendition of John Lennon's beautiful Across the Universe, complete with all the Jai Guru Deva Omza. The Sanskrit mantra used to lull the mind into a higher consciousness, kind of like tequila. We carried on until late that night when 5 or 6 of us exited Velvet Groove and stood on the sidewalk out front solving the world's problems. I leaned my Takamine in its leather bag against the outside store window behind us. Half an hour later, we all strode off in different directions and made our way safely home. At Crosstown Music the next day, I got a call from Sean saying he needed to pick up a set of guitar strings. So I asked him, if you don't mind, how about looking around the store there and bring my Takamine with you? In my mind, I had laid it on a bench just inside the door of his store the night before. 15 minutes went by, and a nervous Sean called back to say, I can't find it anywhere. Punch to the stomach, slap in the face, arrow through the brain, call it what you will. It all descended upon me as I recalled my guitar's final resting place outside the store. I beat myself up about it for a day or two after my sweet wife combed every pawn shop in 2 counties, coming up empty-handed. Finally, finding some psychological comfort in that old saying about letting it go and it coming back if it's supposed to. Actually, what really got me through my loss was a Martin DR, Dreadnought Rosewood, that I bought as a replacement, using my handsome employee discount from Paul Lee at Crosstown Music, dealer of fine acoustic guitars. The DR.
Yeah, and you had one, and I had one.
Now, I bought mine from Clyde's Discount Music in Brunswick.
Yeah.
I was working at a Boy Scout camp in Middle Georgia and had saved every paycheck.
What year? Before 2003.
It's got to be 2000 because all of ours were 1999s. They're all cousins.
Yeah.
Ashton has one now.
Ashton's got one?
Ray had a trade in, and someone brought one in that
Who
they brought
brought
from
it
Paul.
in?
You'd have to ask Ray. But Ray got one from someone who bought one from Crosstown. It's a cousin, and he gave it to Ashton. So we all had cousin guitars.
So
Abby
it's
had one. Paul had one.
Abby, Paul, you, me, Sean.
That's right.
Megan?
No, I bought her another model.
Now, the one that Sean owns, Jesse owned first.
Jesse owned.
Sold it to Scott, and Scott sold it to you, right?
Scott.
Scott Crowley. Or was that an electric guitar I'm thinking about?
He might have sold it to Scott, and then Scott traded it in to Paul. But I got it from Paul.
You got it from Paul. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to buy mine from Paul. I had played one in Paul's store and then went off to work for the summer and saved every paycheck, came back, but I stopped in Brunswick and I took one off the shelf there and I said, hell, I'm just going to buy this. And I came back, and it's a good thing because I think Paul had already sold all his by then. But we all bought them around the same time. They're all cousin guitars.
Well, what struck me with the DR is, okay, this Takamine that I gave away that night. I had bought used from an Air Force serviceman in 1977 in Valdosta when I was playing music there. And I loved it. And it wrote many of an original song with me, you know. And here from 77 to 2003, two or three, whenever we had that, the night of that Velvet Groove concert, I had it low them many years, and in a moment of sheer lapse of wisdom, I walked off and left it on the sidewalks of Waycross. But luckily, I was working for Crosstown Music, and Paul was a Martin dealer.
Yeah.
And so every month he had to order some guitars. And as they would come in, 3 or 4 to the order, you know, after I lost my Takamine, I would look forward to those Martin orders coming in. And I would sit there and tear into them boxes, and I would play every one, waiting on the one to hit me like my Takamine did. Because you'll know it, you know.
Yeah, you know it.
The day that DR came in, I pressed it up against my chest and strummed down on it, and it was the vibration. Mm-hmm. The rosewood is a good. It enhances the bass response.
It does, and with age even more.
You can feel it thumping your heart.
But you know what? There's something about that series that year, because I've played DR since then, and they don't sound near as good as any of ours.
Oh,
did.
really?
And Charlie Chastain Jr. has one that he bought at Crosstown. He still plays.
A DR?
A DR from Paul.
So that's 7.
That's 7 total.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a really, really good year for Martin to make those guitars.
Maybe we should call Martin.
Yeah.
And
I wish I had mine back.
And tell them about
You
that.
had done some wood burning on your top.
What happened to that guitar? I can't remember. I know it was something
You asked
crazy.
that like you already know.
It's a good
Well,
story.
I mean, I feel like I know.
She doesn't know. She doesn't know.
No, I feel like I've heard this story before.
Warmers.
A woman, an old girlfriend of mine.
That's all you got to say. You ain't got to say no more.
I'm trying to figure out how to make it short, but anyway,
Smashed to
I was going to say, I
smithereens.
had something to smash. It smashed.
Well, Dave just summarized it.
Coffee table, guitar.
here's the short version, or probably the long version. But she was dropping me off to practice or something, but it was at the First Creek. I got out and we were arguing in the car already. Get out, and she peels off before I even get out the car good, and I've got flip-flops on, and the tire like touches the back of my heel and runs over the back of my flip-flop. And I didn't hit her car out of anger. I'd hit it out of trying to survive at that point. And so I slapped the car like, hey, you're running me over. And as she pulled off, I saw that it was dented where I hit it. And I was like, oh, hell. So then instead of going where I had to go, where she was dropping me off at my vehicle, I think, I went back because I was like, she's going to raise hell or whatever. So I get there, and then she's already seen it and stuff. And she's like, I wish you had something that was worth anything that I could break, because, you don't have anything worth anything. I said, this is all I got. And I handed it to her. She goes, I don't want this. And threw it straight down on this very cushioned footstool that shouldn't have done anything to it, but it popped a brace off the back.
Oh, the footstool did.
Yeah. And then just the middle that you can see through the hole, the bracing popped off.
Mm-hmm.
And then I said, that's not how you do it.
So you broke it.
Yeah. Matchsticks. Like explosion. Yeah. And immediately regretted it.
Yeah.
Dumbest thing I've ever done.
Did you write a song about it? Did you ever write a song about it?
I still hadn't got over it. You got to get over something.
Sorry
what
for your
helps.
loss.
Golly. I wrote so many. Talking about writing some songs. But I'm sure you write more on yours. But man, I know the feeling.
Yeah, but we did. That was one thing local to Waycross music scene was the fact that so many of us, the primary group of songwriters, we all carried that same model
That's right.
of guitar.
But they all sounded amazing. But
They
they
did.
all sounded different.
Still
Yes.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
And
remember
that's what you still play.
That's
It's
my.
the
I
deal.
bought a J45 and it sits at the house most of the time. It's just there's something about that guitar. It's just it don't hurt my hands. It's easy to play. It stays in tune. The tonation is great. Just can't beat it.
How many times have you had to have work done to it or reset up or anything?
The bindings come off the back a couple of times,
Mine too.
but I fix that myself.
I think that's the climate that we live in down
That's
here,
the climate. That's
close to the salt water and everything.
Yeah.
So, folks, a Martin guitar, specifically a DR, is the way to go. We stand behind them and endorse them 100%. Waycross singer-songwriters music scene.
Send us one or two or three or four.
Well, I guess we've come to the end of Something in the Water, and we want to thank our lovely guests, our good friends, Chris and Laurie Rider. Always a pleasure, and it's been fun. And before we head out of here, I'd like to say a big thank you for this shirt right here from Neil Morris, who I woke up this morning and got a text from. And he said, check your front doorknob. And I went out there and found this hanging on the doorknob with a note attached to it. And he said, you said that you liked my funky shirts, so here's one I've outgrown. So I would just like to say a shout out to Neil Morris, who I think we ought to have on this program
For sure.
sometime because he's relevant.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a story to tell.
Yeah, you know, we get so involved about talking about the musicians and the Something in the Water, but we tend to forget that
There
the
are
music
others.
lovers
Yeah.
that have supported us along the way.
Well, Neil actually was a
sang.
lead singer in several bands. I think back in the 80s.
With Josh, what
Josh Kirkland.
Yeah.
Cool.
And Sam Johnson was in that
Yeah.
band. And I can't remember for the life of me what they were called.
We'll do that. Neil, get ready. Well, we want to thank everybody for watching again. And as we always say, rate, review, subscribe, like, and email us now.
and holla.
Holla. Email us at our own private email there, something in the water.
Podcast at gmail.com.
You heard it here, folks. Thank y'all. We'll see you next time.
When the cold black water finds its way across through your veins, it just might seal your fate. It just might seal your fate. It just might see your face.